Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good day I bid to our lecturer, Miss Roslina binti Adnan, and all our fellow classmates. Today, there are 6 of us are going to represent Group 3 of E30 class in order to present to all of you about the effect of MSG towards our body. Firstly, I would like to introduce to you about what is MSG. Nowadays, most of people are still confused whether the MSG is good or bad for our health. So we are going to present to you the fact about MSG today. The MSG or monosodium glutamate is a common food additive that always been used by people in order to make their food tastier and more delicious. The MSG actually can be found naturally in some food such as tomato or cheese. One example of MSG that we can provide to you is Ajinomoto. The chemical formula for MSG is C5H8NO4Na. Then we will continue on our objective presentation. Firstly, our objective is to explain specifically about what is actually the content of MSG. Then we also like to enlighten all of you about the actually MSG effects towards our body, whether it is bad or it is good for our health. Then we will continue to the fact of MSG.
Alright, now let's talk about some facts about MSG. So firstly, glutamate is one of the most abundant amino acids found in nature, and it can be found in food like tomato, cheese, seaweed, yeast, soy sauce, and many more. And it is one of the 20 amino acids that naturally form in the human body. The human body naturally synthesizes about 50 grams of glutamate each day and stores it in many vital organs like the brain, the lungs, the kidney, and many more. Meanwhile, consumed MSG are normally fully utilized during their journey inside the human body, and the small amount left are normally blocked by many natural barriers in our bloodstream to prevent it from entering organs. Although there are some people that have symptoms like headaches, skin flushing, and sweating by consuming MSG, those are most likely because they have the MSG symptom complex, where you are practically sensitive to MSG, so it is kind of an allergy, but in most cases it is not life-threatening. And there was some experiment to test out the glutamate where they used unrealistic amount of glutamate and through injection that passed the natural barriers in our body instantly to the organ, that will of course result in adverse effects. Meanwhile, some other experiment did not result in such bad effects. So nextly, we'll talk about the organization that states MSG is not harmful. First, we have the World Health Organization, or known as WHO, which was founded in 1948 and have been doing decades of research in diseases. So recently in 2018, they had crossed out MSG from things that can trigger headache. And next, we have the FDA, or known as the US Food and Drug Administration. Although it is a US organization, they have more than 130,000 foreign facilities throughout 150 other countries, and they ensure the safety of food, drugs, medicines. And they have received a lot of complaint about MSG with headache, but never found any real scientifically between those two and states even natural MSG do not even need to be listed in the ingredients of products. And lastly, we have the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization that also states MSG is not harmful. It is an organization that fight hunger throughout the globe, and there are also many other organizations that states MSG is not harmful apart from these three.
This is more facts about MSG. So first of all, MSG can stimulate our tongues to taste more umami flavors. This is because umami flavors are greatly enhanced by MSG because MSG are purely umami flavor. So first of all, umami flavor is the fifth flavor which is savory taste and it is the taste of glutamate. But glutamate is weak and adding sodium enhances it. Therefore, it is called monosodium glutamate. MSG is discovered in Japan in 1908 and it can enhance flavor without adding excessive salt. Other than that, average MSG intake in Asian countries are higher than UK and US. UK and US uses 0.55 to 0.58 grams of MSG. Japan and Korea use 1.2 to 1.7 grams of MSG. Most Asian cookings have MSG and this enhances the flavor in the food. MSG are also used in Western processed food as they can enhance their flavor even though it had been reserved for a long time. The third point is MSG increases your calories intake. Ivan A. de Araujo, a Yale University neurologist, studied the effect of MSG on leptin. Leptin are released by fat cells. It is because more weight gain, more leptin in blood cells as we take MSG. This is the reflection of growing body mass in our body. Ivan E. de Araujo said, it is somewhat intriguing that moderate weight gain was only seen in the group with highest MSG intake. This also consumed more salt in their diets and caused water retention and weight gain. Most of food that contains MSG has around 0.2 grams to 1.0 grams of MSG. It is considerably low because most of Asian countries uses it at home and at their restaurants because it is affordable and it can make their food and greatly enhance in flavor. Limit your intake of MSG is better for your health. This is because excessive MSG can make our blood pressure level increases. MSG are the savory flavors and the savory flavors can be tasted in most of vegetables and fruits. Savory flavors can be tasted when we eat vegetables and fruits daily.
So let's continue. Chemically, MSG is a white crystalline powder that assembles table salt or sugar. It combines sodium and glutamic acid, known as a sodium salt. Glutamic acid functions as a neurotransmitter in your brain. It is an excitatory neurotransmitter, meaning that it stimulates nerve cells in order to relay its signal. So, why do people think it's harmful? Some people claim that MSG leads to excessive glutamate in the brain and excessive stimulation of nerve cells. For this reason, MSG has been labeled an excitotoxin. It is dated at 1969 when a study found that injecting large doses of MSG into newborn mice caused harmful neurological effects. Since then, books like Russell Blaylock's Excitotoxin That the Taste That Kills keep the fear of MSG alive. And it is true that increased glutamate activity in your brain can cause harm. But it is at large doses of MSG. It is Large doses of MSG can raise blood levels of glutamate. In one study, a megadose of MSG increased blood levels by 556%. However, dietary glutamate should have little to no effect on your brain, as it cannot cross the blood-brain barrier in large amounts. Overall, there is no compelling evidence that MSG acts as an excitotoxin when consumed in normal amounts. For short summary, while some people assert that glutamate from MSG can act as an excitotoxin, leading to destruction of nerve cells, no human studies support this.
So let's take a look toward the history of MSG. How was MSG was discovered? Well, back in the 1908, a Japanese professor once tasted a seaweed broth and wanted to explore on how did a single cap make the broth taste so good. The broth that the professor tasted had different tastes apart from the four original well-known tastes, which was sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. So, the professor conducted an experiment and found out that glutamine was the main source of the deliciousness, and the professor named it as umami, which reference to umai in Japanese. The professor separated umami from the seaweed and formed a crystallized salt, which is glutamine. Then the professor combined the one molecule of glutamine with ion sodium to increase the flavor and become the things that we used to know today, which is sodium glutamine or MSG. So, how did MSG get such a bad reputation? Let's take back to the 1968, where there was once a Chinese doctor who wrote a journal to New England Journal of Medicine. The doctor had stated after he ate some Chinese food, he encountered a few symptoms such as numbness, back pain, generalized weakness, and more. And thus, the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine believed so and named the symptom as the Chinese restaurant syndrome. As it was pretty early part of the research back then, many people believe of the false accusation that falls upon the MSG, that MSG causes bad things toward our body and cause a major panic spread worldwide. The problem is people tend to believe that MSG is bad due to a baseless rumor that they heard, but in a real world, that MSG does actually help your body. So, in order to prevent that, people should venture more and investigate about it themselves so they don't make an assumption or just follow the others. Well, the second problem is the overdose intake of MSG can do harm to your body. So, in order to prevent that, you should take precaution on what food you ate and assume that how much MSG does it contain in the food.
For the conclusion, I am Muhammad Aliff Najmi bin Roslan, college number 2020892676. We present about the conclusion for our topic, which is does monosodium glutamate, which is MSG, affect our health? So there are two questions that will help me to conclude this topic. First question is, what is overall opinion about use of MSG in food? As we commonly know that MSG used in food to enhance its flavor. According to research that had been made, MSG is legal to use in food which will not affect your health as long as in moderate amount, which is less than 5 gram. So it is more to personal opinion to use it or not in food, because it's just an extra ingredient or extra secret ingredient to make the food more delicious. So what is the advices for those that choose to consume it in their food? The most important advice is to minimize use of MSG in your food. Secondly, identify if there are any among your family members that are allergic to MSG. And lastly, alert with people surround you if they show any of symptoms as shown in the slide, which is chest pain, facial pressure or tightness, headache, and sweating. So that's all from me. Thank you.